And so here are the teachers saying, this test is totally inappropriate. Superintendent is saying, can't do anything about it, these are state orders. We've heard that before in other countries. It's very sad. He's saying, we have to give the test, we're required by law to give the test. Parents can try to opt out, as they are across the country. It's not clear what penalties will accrue to either the kids or the parents yet, and they differ from state to state. So that's an issue I can't address in any general way. All right, so we have a set of invalid standards developed by an invalid process and by an invalid committee that you are all stuck with because your State Board of Ed, with your governor and with your State Department of Education, approved it. Now, it is now giving money to State Departments of Ed to promote these standards. Guess who? Gates just gave $200,000, I was told, to the Idaho State Department of Ed. He gave money to the Louisiana State Department of Ed. He's buying the public schools, and one of my flip suggestions is to put the whole public school system on the auction block and make him pay through the nose for it, because he's getting it very cheaply. Maybe $200 million, and he's bought the entire public school system through the leverage notion. You know, he puts in a little here, there, and then the taxes have to come from everybody else. Some people would say, well, if these were great standards, would that be so terrible he would be seen as a benevolent philanthropist? Of course, even if that were the case, and it isn't, as I will explain, that still doesn't explain the process, which is in violation of everything we know should take place for public policy. But the standards themselves have so many poisonous tentacles and are so damaging in their own right that one has to start getting parents and teachers to unite together to do something in the local schools. More and more people are now pulling their kids out, trying homeschooling. It doesn't do any good to send your kid to a local Catholic school because most Catholic schools have adopted standards when they didn't need to. I've been in touch with people who were active in Catholic circles asking, why did Catholic schools adopt standards? Well, because the mission of self-parochial schools at the elementary level is to prepare their kids for going into the public schools. And I'm thinking, that's quite a reason, you know, for it. Is that the mission of Catholic parochial schools, to prepare kids for the public schools? I mean, this is how bizarre the situation has gotten. Or we think they're going to be more rigorous than what we have, even though all the data we have shows that inner city Catholic schools are better than the public schools in the inner cities. But there's no rhyme or reason why people are behaving like fools. What are the major problems? Because I think we need to hear more questions from you. First of all, as I've written almost ad nauseum, Common Core's English language arts standards are skills. They're not content standards. And when you're assessing skills, it means you can let in almost anything. That's why we can't talk about what the grade level will be until we see items that are released as samples. And even then, we need to be skeptical because not one of the testing companies is telling us these are items that represent what will be on the test. We're just calling them sample items, but we haven't seen enough to know, and we don't have any mechanism for vetting those items in each state. In Massachusetts, one of the interesting little features of the Ed Reform Act in '93 was that all test items had to be released publicly a year after they were given. This allowed parents, as well as teachers, to look at these items, particularly in math, to see whether they were correct or not. It turned out there were some errors in some of them, but the point was, it enables the public to see what it is that's determining the kid's score. There's no such mechanism, Common Core's two-testing consortia, or the ACT, or SAT, or GED, which is now being aligned to Common Core. There's no mechanism for vetting these items. So what your kids will be taking, passages on these computer adaptive tests, we have no idea. I look at the few samples that are given, and I see some of the problems, but we don't know if they are general or just specific to those particular items. What is a skill? Let me give you an example of a grade 11-12 standard. It's an anchor standard in ELA. That is what I call a free-floating skill. This is how it reads. Analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how specific individuals, ideas, or events interact and develop over the course of a text. Now you can apply that to the Three Little Pigs or to Moby Dick, because there's nothing here. Sense of reading level or culture. There's nothing. You don't know where it goes until you select the passage and what the rationale for those passages will be. We don't know. So you have a problem at the very beginning with the nature of those standards. This is not to say that whatever the Internet did beforehand was much better or any better. I'm not making comparative judgments. I'm just saying that here's what we have for national standards. Secondly, and this I discovered late in the game, when you simply count up the standards, there's more on writing than reading. Kids do an enormous amount of writing from kindergarten on, and it is bizarre and inappropriate. Because if anyone in the schools knows anything about the relationship between reading and writing, you would know that good writers are always good readers, and reading must take priority. Good writers come from being exposed to good reading material. You absorb the structure of your written language that way. So we've got an imbalance that's built in. How many of you are parents or grandparents of children in public school? Okay. You're going to watch to see your teacher spending a great deal of time, because it's futile to try to teach a fifth grader the rhetorical issue of a claim. They don't understand what a claim in a piece of writing is. Maybe they can start to learn what a topic sentence in a paragraph is, but a claim is a much more abstract concept at a higher level. And yet, these have been pushed down. It's very pretentious, and the New York Times editorial board thinks it's wonderful. That means they're challenging standards. We're asking kindergartners to write a paragraph. Wonderful. We've increased the challenge level.